When we talk about character and soul when it comes to a motorcycle, I think what we're really describing is sensory richness. The sensations that the motorcycle gives off and the quality of those sensations. While some bikes can feel a bit clinical, others give off so many sensory stimulations that it's like almost overload in the best way possible. Motorcycles offering low sensory richness are efficient, quiet, and smooth. Those with higher sensory richness, they're a bit more textured. They make sounds. They have unique traits. They're mechanically expressive. When we talk about character and soul, what we're really talking about are the things that make the motorcycle feel alive. Things that provide sensory richness. Today I was lucky enough to meet up with my friend Carrie so that I could ride her Harley-Davidson Pan America, and she could get a chance to ride the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport. After we go for a quick loop on Sauvie Island, we'll stop back here and compare notes. I'm really interested to hear her impression of what it's like to ride a Moto Guzzi for the first time. I'm also really interested to understand what my first impression is going to be riding the Harley Pan America.
All right, well, the first thing I feel is it sounds amazing, and it kind of feels amazing. I wish I could see my hands. So that's Carrie up ahead on the Guzzi, and when we get back, we're going to compare notes on what we felt riding each other's motorcycles. Right off the bat, I can tell you what I'm feeling is, I'm feeling that this is a big motorcycle with potentially a lot of power. It's incredibly stable, and it sounds like a hot riot. Over the years, I've ridden a few Harleys. I've ridden a Sportster, the Low Rider 883 or whatever it is. And recently, I rode my friend Alice's Dyna. And the one thing I can tell you is this feels nothing like either one of those bikes. Comparatively, this thing is as smooth as glass. And while it's loud, it doesn't sound obnoxious loud. It sounds really good loud. It feels like you could get hit by a missile and not lose control of this bike. It feels really stable. What I'm seeing is quality engineering, I would say, which is building my confidence in riding this bike. The display looks quality. All of the switch gear, although you can't really see it, I did take a peek before we left, and that all looks super quality. I am seeing a giant windscreen in front of me, which isn't necessarily my cup of tea, but damn, everything is quiet, and I'm not in a wind tunnel, which is nice. So I think I could live with this. I'm watching Carrie ride my Guzzi, and I've never actually seen anyone ride my Guzzi. In fact, I'm not sure anyone has, except maybe the mechanic took it for a test drive when they did my service or whatever. So, as far as sensory richness goes with this bike, man, it's got the sights. I mean, this thing looks amazing. It's not, I wouldn't call it beautiful, but, you know, but it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty badass. It sounds like like I said, it sounds like a hot riot. It's great. Not obnoxious, but it sounds like it's got some authority behind it. You know, for a super rugged, big bike, it feels really gentle, I guess is the best way to describe it. My senses are telling me that it's a little bit like the Tiger 900 Rally Pro that I used to own, only with much more sensory richness, much more character and soul. Oh yeah. what kind of exhaust she has on this bike, but it sounds phenomenal. This morning I took my Scrambler 1200 XE in for an annual service type thing because I just bought it and I just wanted to have it, you know, just done over. And I had them remove the baffles from my Aero exhaust, and it now sounds similar to this. And it's not overly loud. It's loud, but it's not obnoxiously loud. But it adds to that sensory richness. It adds to the character and the soul of the motorcycle, and it just brought it alive. And that's the thing about character and soul and this whole sensory richness thing. It's the idea that you're riding something that feels alive. It feels organic. To me, that's the kind of motorcycle that I always want to ride. I want to ride something that feels like it has a life of its own. And that's what makes it so easy to bond with and fall in love with, because you're not just falling in love with the machine. You're falling in love with something a little deeper than that. Some people are going to think that that's complete bullshit, and I get it. But on the other hand, I don't. I don't know why people have such a problem, like, what's the word? You know what the hell I'm saying. Motorcycles, and giving them names and stuff. Like, some people think that's really stupid and pointless and yada yada yada, and whatever, man. These things have a direct connection to our souls, to our sensory system. There's nothing wrong with falling deeply in love and realizing that what you're riding might just be a little bit more than just a machine. You know, maybe someday my friend Carrie will let me borrow this bike for half a day or something, and I'll do like a full review and whether or not I think this is a journey bike and all that stupid stuff that I do. But really, I was just intending to tell you how it feels, especially for the first time riding something like this. How does it feel? Which of my senses is this sparking? All of them. But if you know me, it doesn't take a lot for me to find the sensory richness in a motorcycle. But what kills a motorcycle for me is a sterile motorcycle, something that doesn't really have much output to stimulate my senses. I don't know if I'm a bit on the spectrum or whatever's going on with me. I've always been a little bit like, I need some sensory stimulation. I can't sleep at night sometimes if I don't have a fan going and that fan isn't pointed directly at my head. I need that stimulation. Same when I'm working. I have a fan blowing on me, and I guess maybe that's part of the reason why I don't always prefer a tall windscreen. I sometimes need that sense of the wind blowing in my face to stimulate my senses. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I love motorcycles so much in the first place. Is motorcycles are just absolutely geared toward, I don't know where the blinker is on this thing. Motorcycles are absolutely geared toward stimulating your senses. And I think that's why I now have 3 motorcycles, because each one of them stimulates my brain in a different way. Yeah. Carrie's about to find out that it takes 40 seconds for the blinkers to turn off automatically. My little Guzzi looks amazing. I love that taillight. I never get to actually see it in action, and now that I see it, it's gorgeous. Talk about sensory stimulation. In the end, if I had to sum up what this motorcycle feels like, I'd say it feels big. It feels stable. It feels powerful. It looks sexy. It sounds amazing. You feel a rumble in your body, not in a bad way. You feel like you're on a motorcycle the same way you feel when you're riding the Moto Guzzi. This bike definitely feels alive. I will say, the first time I rode a Harley, it blew me away. I rode that 883 Sportster low version, and the sensory richness of that motorcycle is just off the charts. This motorcycle brings some of the good parts of that, plus a stable touring platform, plus, I don't know, just a more sensible configuration in general. So it's kind of like the good parts of a Harley and none of the bad parts of a Harley as far as what it does to your senses. It doesn't have nearly the same sort of tactile feel as something like a Sportster. It doesn't, it's not as vibey. It's not as like you pull up to a red light and the thing just like bump, 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 bump. It's much more smooth than that. That's not a bad thing. Boy, I kind of want to take this thing out in the freeway and wind it out and see what it feels like at speed. I like what this is doing to my senses. Dying to know what Carrie thinks of the Moto Guzzi. I'll give you my broad overview of how I feel about the Moto Guzzi, even though you've probably heard this already. That thing has more character and soul than any bike I've ever ridden. It's so stimulating to your senses on just about every level. I mean, the damn thing is beautiful. It sounds amazing, even with those stock pipes. The vibrations that it puts through your body are just so soothing. I'll never forget, not too long after I got it, I went on a fairly long ride with my friend Alice, and we split up towards the end, and I was coming home, and I was doing a constant, 45 miles an hour or something like that, and the vibration of the engine going through your body, it was so soothing that I wanted to take a nap. It was so relaxing. It was the best therapy I had had in a long time. And that's why I love that bike so much. It's like a circus for your senses. I'm curious to know what Carrie thinks. Will she think the same thing, or will she think like, it's too old school, or it's just too rough around the edges or something?
Okay, so you had a chance to ride the Guzzi. I'm purely interested in knowing how it felt to you.
I thought it felt great.
Really?
In my mind, I think the major comparator is the Bonneville T120.
Yeah.
Which I was disappointed in.
Tell me why, because as much as I love that motorcycle, it didn't have this,
feels
right?
a bit lumbering to me.
Uh-huh.
And I felt that the front end was kind of divey under braking, and the engine braking was very abrupt. This was smooth. The wiggle takes a little getting used to.
Yeah.
But once you do get used to it, it's very pleasant. And I think I feel very similar to it as I do about my Scrambler 1200X, which I think the engine and just the smoothness of it and the torque is just delightful. I think my one complaint about this bike is that the shifting is so smooth. There's no tactile sense that you've just clicked into gear.
Interesting. You might be the first person in the history of Moto Guzzi that's ever said that about a Moto Guzzi.
When I was first riding it, I wasn't sure that I had changed gears or not.
Yeah.
I was waiting for some sort of tactile feedback.
Yeah.
But then once I got used to it, it was fine.
Did you hear it though? Could you hear it clunk?
No.
If you have, maybe because you have a really quiet helmet. My helmet's very loud, so it lets a lot of sound in. There's a distinctive clunk that happens that really, it gets my senses going. What about the sound of the engine, and like what did it do for your senses?
I also felt, this was subdued because, again, I wear very good earplugs and my helmet is very quiet. So I found myself wanting it to be louder. I'm used to being on a pretty loud motorcycle.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
And so that, I don't think it got me as much as I was expecting, but I found it very pleasant.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
I liked it a lot. What did you think of my bike?
It's loud.
Yeah.
It's very loud, but it's very stable. What I was saying in my helmet was it sort of took all of the good parts of the Harleys that I've ridden, put them into this, but didn't take any of the bad parts, right? Because it's like some of that bone shaking stuff that happens on like Alice's old Harley and the old Sportster that I rode in Arizona, I guess it was. it was a lot.
Mhm.
You know, you get done riding that thing and you're like, what the hell did I just experience?
Mhm.
Not in a bad way or a good way. It's just like, what was that?
Yeah.
This is like, it takes the sound, the power, the feeling of riding a Harley, but it doesn't include any of really the nasty stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I feel like it's loud enough to be like you were talking about, like have some sensory richness to it.
Yeah.
That's, I find very pleasing,
Yeah.
even with my earplugs and my helmet, but not obnoxiously loud
Sure.
or jarring.
Yeah. It felt really smooth,
Hmm.
a lot smoother than I expected. It's really stable and just kind of nice,
Yeah.
right? It's like bordering on luxury, bordering on almost too nice, right? Like the reason I'm not into buying a BMW GS type thing today is I don't want a sterile feeling when I'm riding. I want that sensory overload. That has it. This definitely has it. You know, our scramblers have it. My Himalayan has it to a certain extent. But then you have a bike like the Trident that I had, which I really liked, but was kind of sterile.
Yeah.
You know, it sounded cool, I guess, but it didn't shake. It didn't, it's very like, I don't know, like you could ride it at 55 miles an hour down the highway and not even realize you're on a motorcycle because it was just like, I don't know.
No, I totally get it. Having had a Tiger, I had that same feeling about the Tiger. Like it was fun. It did what I needed it to do, but it didn't give me any sort of feeling.
Yeah.
Whereas this really does.
That's how I felt about my Tiger too.
Yeah.
But like perfect bike.
Yep.
Absolutely on paper, perfect bike, but it did nothing for my senses.
Yeah.
And I've just learned over the years that that's what I need in a motorcycle. I was saying in my helmet, I can't even sleep at night without like a fan going and blowing at me because I need that sensory stimulation. And that's why I gravitate to certain motorcycles as opposed to others, because I need that. I need that stimulation. So awesome. Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
You can't have it though.
Sometimes I wish I had better words to describe what a motorcycle like my Moto Guzzi V7 does to my senses. But at the same time, sometimes it's not worth trying to parse it all out. Sometimes you just got to get on the bike and enjoy it and understand that as long as it's tickling your senses, then you're on the right bike. There's no need to describe it any further. Anyway, if you like this video, check this one out over here. I hear it's pretty good. And I'll catch you on the next one.